She asked if I had really thought this through. I could, she agreed, call the police. I could report the fraud. In doing so, I would publicly detonate our family. My brother would face jail time. Every family has a breaking point. Mine arrived on a Tuesday over a casserole that tasted like ash. The scene was a ritual. My mother directing the performance, my father disappearing into the wallpaper, and my brother Mark holding court. I, as always, was cast in the supporting role of fixer, emotional janitor, and when needed, the human ATM. This time, the pattern held. After the plates were cleared, Mark slid his latest disaster onto the table. A business deal, he called it. A bad bounce, he said. He needed $10,000 by Monday. The expectation in the room thickened. All three of them turned to me. My mother began her familiar monologue, a well-rehearsed speech about the sanctity of family, about how we all had to step up, how I, with my stable job and savings, was the logical solution. My father studied his napkin, a silent co-signature to the demand. For years, I had swallowed the outrage. I had drained my accounts, cleaned up their messes, and paid the emotional price just to keep the fragile peace. But that night, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, a single cold wire in my spine just snapped. The word no left my mouth. It was soft, barely audible, but it landed like a grenade. The silence that followed was total. Mark's face, a mask of boyish entitlement, cracked. My father flinched, a genuine physical recoil. My mother's smile froze and then curdled. Then came the explosion. It was the loudest I'd ever heard them. I was selfish. I was ungrateful. I was tearing this family apart. But beneath the familiar script of their anger, something new flickered. Pure animal panic. My mother's eyes weren't just angry. They were terrified. I stood up and walked out of that house. The buzzing in my pocket was relentless. The first texts were the angry ones. Then within an hour, the tone shifted. The messages became desperate. My mother, then my father, even Mark. They weren't just asking anymore. They were begging. I didn't understand what I was doing, they pleaded. I needed to call them. I needed to come back. The chilling speed of their desperation told me this was never about Mark's $10,000. My no had broken something far older and far darker. At 2 in the morning, I sat in the blue light of my laptop, driven by a fury I'd never allowed myself to feel. I did something I'd never done before. I investigated. I started with the old joint account my mother insisted we keep for emergencies. I saw the withdrawals, small but regular, dating back months, all labeled family support. Then I ran my credit report. The page loaded. I scrolled past my car loan, past my credit cards, and then I saw it. A $30,000 personal consolidation loan. It was taken out 3 months prior from a bank I'd never stepped inside. My blood turned to ice. I logged into the loan company's portal using the forgot password function with my own information. I was in within a minute. And there, on the digital application, was the signature. My name, forged in a slightly too perfect imitation of my script. I stared at the loop on the E. It was my mother's. I remembered then. My ID vanishing from my purse in July. My mother helping me search the house for it. Her face a mask of concern. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. The emergencies, the constant small crises, my brother's endless bad luck. It was all a cover. They hadn't just been bailing Mark out. They had been committing fraud, using my good credit as the fuel. My no hadn't just denied them future money. It had threatened to expose the past crime. I was the last to know I'd been funding my own exploitation. I drove back, the loan papers sitting like a bomb on the passenger seat. They were in the living room, waiting. The confrontation was electric, but not in the way I expected. When I laid the forged documents on the coffee table, there were no tears, no denials. My mother, her face stripped of all pretense, simply justified it. She explained that protecting my brother was her only priority, that it was a family matter, handled in the family. I told her I was going to the police. That's when she smiled. A thin, cold, terrible smile. She calmly, logically laid out my future. She asked if I had really thought this through. I could, she agreed, call the police. I could report the fraud. In doing so, I would publicly detonate our family. My brother would face jail time. My father, as an accomplice, would be ruined. And the investigation, the lawsuits, the public scandal, it would all be tied, legally and permanently, to my name. Or, she said, leaning forward, I could be the good daughter. I could finally understand. We could, all of us, together, just handle this. I saw the choice she was giving me. It was the same one they'd always given me, just with the mask off. I could be their scapegoat, or I could be their executioner. I had refused to be their punching bag, only to find I was the scaffolding holding up their entire rotten house. I stood there, in that silent room, looking at the faces of the people who had built a prison for me and called it a home. Everything that happened after, the lawsuits, the threats, the long, brutal fight to clear my name and my credit, was mine. The after was the sound of me walking out that door, leaving them with the papers, and the silence, and the bill that had finally come due.